Hi, welcome to episode 327 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, and that's where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. And I am on Ravelry as Fluffy K, but I do not spend very much time there these days. So, hi, how are you? It is Monday, May 3rd. It is actually kind of an overcast day, and we're expecting some storms. So, nothing too cold. It's still in the 60s, but it is kind of dreary out, and the temperature has dropped from the weekend, and there is no sun. So, we're just kind of sitting and waiting today. It's kind of a typical Monday, lots of getting back into Monday and all kinds of things setting up for the week. This weekend was great. I did a ton of crafting, a lot of which I can't even show you, which just made me sort of about recording today. I love coming here and seeing you, and if this is your first time, I hope you will enjoy it, and if you are joining me again, welcome back. I just am a little frustrated by my lack of progress on things that I can show you, and so I feel like I don't have a lot to talk about. But I didn't want to miss a week, so I decided to record today anyway. This past weekend was Maryland Sheep and Wool, which is a festival in the United States. It was not held in person this year. It was, last year it was just a couple months into the pandemic, and they tried to make it a virtual event, and it had some hiccups because it was pretty early on. This year I think it went much more smoothly. I did just a little bit of shopping, and I will share that with you when the fiber comes in. I just bought one braid of fiber, but today I sort of themed my mug and tea choice to be with Maryland Sheep and Wool. Maryland takes place the first weekend of every May, and it is kind of a combination fiber festival and animal show. You can see sheep and goats and alpaca and llamas, and you can see them being sheared. There is a fleece competition or a fleece judging. There are lots of barns with places to go and purchase from fiber vendors, and then there is also usually a sheep to shawl competition. So lots going on, and I decided to drink today out of my Maryland Sheep and Wool mug that I got a few years ago. So, and then actually I selected an apple tea, which is kind of funny, because apple tea is actually more of a Rhinebeck and fall thing, not a May thing. So, I went wrong on the tea, but I do know that I got this mug when I went to Maryland Sheep and Wool. And I did that in the year, let me think how old Roxy is now, 2013. And the reason that I know that is because on my way back from on my way back from Maryland Sheep and Wool, I had a 3-hour layover in four or 5 hour layover in Chicago, and my sister brought Roxy, who was just a baby, to a hotel near the airport, and we hung out for a while. So that was kind of fun. And I got her a little lamb, stuffed lamb from the festival, and she was only about 5 or 6 months old at that point. So it was really, really cute. Anyway, so this is, I think Greenwood Pottery Works, but I cannot remember, and it does not say down at the bottom. Yes, it does. I'm sorry. This is Green Ridge Pottery Works. So Green Ridge Pottery Works, and I got my little alpaca mug from them. So yeah. Okay, and oh, sorry, I didn't talk about the tea. The tea that I am drinking is Toasted Apple from Bird and Blend. It is green tea, apple pieces, and Japanese genmatcha, which is actually popped rice. It gives it kind of a nutty taste, and that's really good. So it's just kind of an apple pieces and kind of a little bit nutty and a little bit green tea. It's really, really nice. So this is not the first time I've tried it. I've had it before on this podcast. So let's talk about the knits. The big knit that I have in progress that you're probably sick of seeing, although I'm really getting closer and closer to the finish, is I am knitting the Painting Honeycombs blanket by Stephen West. This is the large size. It is a blanket that has all kinds of lovely texture, and I am knitting it as a sample for Zen Yarn Garden. I've been working on it since the beginning of April. I suppose I shouldn't be too upset about bringing it to show you again, because the blanket takes somewhere around 30 3,500 yards of yarn. So it is a lot to knit, and I've actually done quite a bit in the month that I've had. I think I started this right at the beginning of April. And I have knit 5 of the repeats in the blanket, and I have 2 more to go. So without giving too much away, this is a really cool honeycomb pattern texture stitch with garter and stockinette and some slipped stitches. It's really fun to knit, and I am using a main color of a gray, kind of a medium steely gray, which I have here. And that is what I have been using so far as the main color, and then I have all the contrast colors. There are 8 of them. It is kind of a greeny teal leans green, a turquoise leans blue, a dark teal, an orange, a lemon, a berry, a hot pink, and then a petal pink. And so those are the colors, and I'm working through this. Like I said, I have just finished the 5th repeat, and I'm about to start the 6th repeat tonight, and honestly what is limiting me is this is the last ball of gray I have. So I'm gonna need to get another, I'll probably ask for 2 just to be safe, and I'm pretty sure I'll break into the second one. I probably need about 1.5 more balls, which is more than the Stephen West pattern calls for. I don't know if it's because this yarn is quite a bit more plush than some of the other yarns, and so it just, it knits up differently, different fiber content, or precisely why. I do know that some of the West Knits patterns have been close on yardage in the past. So yeah, so I will need to get more of this from the dyer, which is Zen Yarn Garden, and finish it off. I probably have enough to do maybe another 3 rows of the textured stitch. So I'm just going to work on that until I run out, and then I will wait for reinforcements. And so this will not be done by next week. I don't even know when it will be done. It should be done in the next week or 2, depending on how long it takes me to get the replacement, because it really should not be more than 2 weeks of knitting, and I can finally dedicate my time to this because almost everything else is done. So I plan to get through as much as I can in the next night or 2, and then I will be putting it aside until I get the rest of the yarn, and then finishing it off and sending it off. I will need to wash and block it. It's going to be huge. I'm excited. This is one of the, I love all the samples that I knit, but this one in particular is going to be really hard to give up because I love it. But I will, and maybe I'll buy the yarn, and maybe I'll buy the kit when it comes out so that I can knit one of my own. I've also thought about knitting it with scraps of DK weight, or you know, maybe doing something else with it. Maybe doing it in fingering weight, and it wouldn't be quite so big, but I could use all my sock weight yarn scraps. It has lots of possibilities. So that is the big thing I'm working on. Like I've said, you've seen it every week for the last month, so I'm sure you're enjoying it. Next up, this week I worked on another chicken. And this chicken is in purples. I think I showed you the handspun yarn last week, and I got all of this knit up, which is probably about 600 yards of yarn, so it's not insignificant. And I knit up a variety of baubles. I'm trying to find all of it so I can show you. I guess you can see it kind of on this one. So I had a variety of colors, kind of a light purple, which I knit up with some small baubles. You can see they're kind of in here and textured, and it's all nubbly and kind of fun. And then I had kind of a medium purple that blended some of the beginning purple with a darker one, and I have slightly bigger baubles on this one. And then we have the really dark and the really big baubles. So this is going to kind of be a little bit of a gradient and a fade and a bauble, and it's just going to be super fun. I cannot wait to see the chicken when it's done, but this is sort of what I have worked on this week. So I've been knitting those all week, and yeah, so I've got a bag full of those. I need to drop those off probably tomorrow or Wednesday, and then that one will be a second chicken done in the space of a couple weeks. So I actually have been knitting a lot. It's just, yeah. The final thing that I've been knitting that I can't show you is I have been test knitting a shawl for a friend, and I am working my way through it, and it's funny because it's meant to be knit in a DK weight yarn. And I am using scraps from all the blankets that I crocheted last year. And in particular, I started with kind of the fall one, and it's coming out really nicely, although it's not at all how it was intended, because it is for a yarn company, so it's being knit in that company's yarn. And of course, I'm not doing that. I'm just kind of checking stitch counts and checking out the pattern. And of course, because I only have little different sized balls of different colors left, I'm kind of fading and striping whenever I feel like it, so it's gonna look entirely different, but I'm kind of having fun with that. But that has also been more knitting behind the scenes that I can't show you. So the final knitting piece is kind of a funny story, and I thought it might amuse you the way it amuses me, and it's something that you'll see next week because it is something I plan to cast on this week. I have purchased yarn over the years from Eat Sleep Knit, which is a great yarn store in outside of Atlanta, in Georgia in the US, and they are kind of a yarn warehouse that also happens to be a yarn store, and they have all kinds of yarn and indie brands. And the thing that I find fun about them is that every year they do what they call a Yarnathon, which is they encourage you to knit up to or more than 10,000 yards of yarn. And they've got all kinds of contests and fun events and knit-alongs to, you know, to promote, to encourage you to work up from your stash, but also to, of course, buy from them. And so I got an email recently for the second quarter knit-along, and they do a knit-along each quarter, and a lot of times it's a larger project and I just don't have time, or you know, I'm busy with sample knits or whatever. But the project this quarter was for socks, and I got the email maybe 2 weeks ago, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, I could do a pair of socks. I guess maybe it was one of their, it wasn't a second quarter email, but it suggested that one of the things you could do with the yarns in the email was do a second quarter project. So I went and looked, and the second quarter project was a pair of socks. And I thought, oh, well, it's just the end of April. I could totally do a pair of socks by the end of June. I mean, that's not hard. And then I went and looked in my stash, and we won't discuss that I have two, like, basically big Rubbermaid tubs of yarn. But I don't actually have a skein in them that was purchased from Eat Sleep Knit. So what's a girl to do but buy a skein of yarn? So I bought a new to me yarn. It is called Essence of Autumn, and it is fairly brand new to Eat Sleep Knit. I believe the email that I received was about the fact that they had a new dyer, a new dyer's yarn available, and so I, you know, I bought a skein, hook, line, and sinker. This is Pasture Sock, which is 80% superwash BFL, 20% nylon, 4 ounces, 407 yards, and it is in the colorway of Black Cherry. So it's got some purples and pinks, and then this really great scummy yellow, and a little bit of brown and red, and I'm really excited about it. And one of the other reasons that I bought this, even though it's highly variegated, and I don't always knit variegated yarn into socks, is because the new Knitty came out in the last couple weeks, and there is a pattern in there called Knit Loops. And it is about knitting socks, and I haven't read sorry, it's not about knitting socks. It is a sock pattern, or I think it's more of a sock recipe. It is about, you pick up loops and you knit with them, and you kind of weave them through your knitting. I don't understand exactly how it's put together, but it is a free pattern on knitty.com, and it is called the Knit Loops sock pattern. I don't remember who it is by, but it will be linked in the show notes. I should say all the show notes are available at thecornerofknitnt.com, and any links in the show notes will not go to Ravelry. If there is not a link, that means it's not available elsewhere besides Ravelry. But I will always leave, even if there is no link, I will always leave the pattern name and the designer name, so if you want to go find it on Ravelry, you can take those two and plug it in there. So this will be a link to the Knitty pattern, but it's a really interesting looking pattern. Like I said, I think it's a recipe. I don't think it's an actual pattern with actual stitch counts and a formula for a heel and those kinds of things. I think it is a recipe that explains how to do this stitch. And the stitch makes it look a little bit like a slipped stitch, and just kind of would break up any pooling, and I think it would be great for a variegated yarn. So sometime between now and June 30th, I'm going to try and knit a pair of socks out of Essence of Autumn hand-dyed yarn from Eat Sleep Knit so that I can get imaginary internet points. And imaginary internet points also sometimes translate to you get awarded yardage for the Yarnathon. And remember, your goal is to get up to a certain amount of yardage. And then when you hit certain milestones in yardages, there are prizes, there are discounts on yarn, etc. So, you know, I'm motivated by a good imaginary internet contest. So here we go. I also plan to finally start that baby blanket this week. I know I have talked to you about it multiple times. Basically, the thing that was tripping me up was I was really trying to design something because I wanted to use it as another pattern release this year. And finally, I decided I just am not feeling motivated. I had swatched in the pattern that I thought I was going to use, and I didn't like the way the swatch came out, and that sort of set me back further. I think I swatched maybe last Sunday or Monday and washed it, and then went, oh, I didn't like that, which means now I have to go back to the drawing board. I finally decided that I just wasn't going to design a pattern. So what I'm going to do instead is use somebody else's pattern and then tweak it a little bit to make it to my own liking. So it won't be something that you will be able to buy when I am done. However, I will take some project notes and be sure to discuss that in a blog post on my blog if I don't add them to Ravelry. I haven't decided yet whether I'm still adding things to Ravelry. But I am taking somebody's shawl pattern and turning it into a square blanket. So it's a triangular shawl pattern, it's charted, it will fairly easily work into a blanket. And so next week I will bring both the shawl, which I have knit before, and I will bring what I have started on the baby blanket. And the reason that I am sure that I will have 2 new cast-ons is because Wednesday this week is my birthday. I will be 43, and I have decided that because it's a pandemic, and it's my second pandemic birthday, I decided that I am going to take the day off work. Not that I'm going anywhere, because I'm still not going anywhere, but I am going to take the day off work, and I am going to knit and spin, and the big thing that I'm going to do is I am going to cast on 2 new projects, one that I need to be working on, but one that I really just want to work on. So that is my plans for Wednesday. Plus, I'm going to go get takeout from somewhere. I don't know where yet, but go get takeout from a restaurant. And then Wes said he bought a dessert this week, and I haven't been doing too much snooping. So that is how we're going to celebrate my birthday this year, with knitting, spinning, and good food. So I think that is, you know, the best anyone can hope for right now. So last but certainly not least is spinning. I finally have a spin to show you. By the skin of my teeth, I plied it last night, but this is a skein of yarn from a braid that I showed you several weeks ago. I have spun this braid several times before. This is Southern Cross Fiber in Homestead. And it is a beautiful, it's burgundies and grays and taupes, and I have spun it a bunch of other times, and I think I called it Scallywag the previous times because it was spun when I was still renaming things with pirate names. But it is Homestead, and it is from, wow, I'm really, Southern Cross Fibers, and it is super fine, South African superfine merino. SASF, South African Superfine Merino, and it is my absolute favorite blend. It spins thin, it is soft, it is so next to the skin soft, it is like butter. It's amazing, and I will, this one is not washed yet, you can see it's still a little funky. It needs to be washed and thwacked and kind of even that out, but my guess is it's going to be close to 400 yards of around a fingering weight yarn, and that will be up in my shop later this week. I love the colors in this one. I don't know if the camera is doing them justice, but like I said, there are burgundies and warm chocolate browns and grays and a little bit of white, and it is super fun. So I have the sheep spot braid, which is Corriedale in the colorways Key West, kind of a tropical colorway. On my wheel, I started a very little bit last night during knit night, and I will be working on that this week. And because I'm taking Wednesday off, I hope to have some spin time then, so that I will have that one to show you next week. And I'm hoping to get back into the habit of spinning. I just had a few weeks where I was so backed up on knitting. I hope I'm going to be... now that I'm seeing the end of the blanket project, the big blanket project, I'm hoping that I we'll have a little bit more time to integrate spinning into the week, because I really do like trying to spin about a braid a week, and many of them go up into my shop where you can find them. So I think that's about it for today. I really wish that I had more to tell you. I'm hoping I will have 2 new projects to share with you next week. I'm willing myself to have more things to show you next week, so that we can chat a little bit more, because I feel like of late I haven't had much to share or chat about. So I hope that you are doing well wherever you are in the world. I hope that maybe you're starting to see vaccines, that spring is springing, or I guess depending on which hemisphere you're in, maybe you're getting towards fall. But I hope you are finding some creative inspiration and some lovely projects to spend your time on. I hope you're getting to take part in virtual festivals or a few fun activities. Obviously, it's still not what we're used to, but staying inside and doing our part, hopefully there are a few fun things we can participate in. So, I wish you the very best until I see you next week, and I will say happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!